want to increase the amount of leads that your company contacts by 100 times, then you need to be using AI, and this is the video for you. To make it, you need to build this AI agent. It is built to contact every customer that shows interest in your company. The customer simply sends you their information through Google Local Service Ads or Google Ads. Then this workflow runs and a phone call goes out.
Hi, this is the scheduling assistant for Andromedus window washing. You recently requested a quote online. Is now a good time to chat for 30 seconds?
MIT showed the value of this quick response. They did a study showing that if you reach out to a lead in less than 5 minutes, you get at least a 100x increase in contacts compared to reaching out 30 minutes or later, and even a 4x increase compared to 10 minutes or later. If you are not contacting in less than 5 minutes, you are leaving money on the table. By the end of this video, you're going to have an AI agent capturing more leads than ever before. Just follow my exact steps. And if you miss anything, just go to my free school community below and you can find the templates there. Or if you just want this built for you, just reach out to me and I can do it. But for now, let's get started. Okay, to get things kicked off, you're gonna need to go into your Google Ads account or your Google Local Service Ads account. If you do not have an account and you're just practicing or learning, it is free to make an account. And so just go in and you'll see this information here that you put in. You'll just say that you're gonna create a campaign and your objective is going to be leads, and I'll take you through this process, asking you a few questions. Just put some information in there. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. You can even put $1 for your daily campaign spend, and then just pause it right after, and you won't have to spend anything. So I'm just gonna go out of here and we'll go down to the next part. So you can see here, my campaign is paused. I am not being charged anything. So from here, we need to create a new asset. And this is the asset that we're going to be using to collect all of the names, phone numbers, and emails from all of our leads from the people that we get from our campaign. So you're just gonna click right here on this blue button that says Create Asset. We're gonna create a lead form and then just throw in some generic information at the top. Andromedus window washing, headline, get a quote today. We can leave that blank. And we're gonna want the name, email, and phone number from each of the potential leads. And this is the part that's most important. We're gonna scroll to the very bottom and you're gonna see this button that says Export Leads from Google Ads. And this is how we're going to connect it to n8n. So if you do the search, there's no n8n connection here. So what we're gonna have to do is those other data integration options. So now that we've got this started, we can go back to n8n and start building our workflow in order to connect this information here. So to give you a quick overview of where we're going, we're gonna create this workflow in n8n. So first it's gonna start with a webhook. That's just gonna pull that information that we found from our Google Leads. Then we're gonna create a secret key that the Google Leads can use to push into here, just to make sure not anyone can have access to this webhook. Then it'll make sure that the secret key is correct. Go to the top one if it is true. Then it's gonna pull all the information that we need for Vapi to make the phone call, and then it's gonna push that information to Vapi. Then Vapi will then make that phone call for us. Then it's gonna take all the information from that phone call and capture it in another webhook, a webhook that's gonna be pulling information from Vapi. It'll summarize that information from the phone call, then send an email confirming that appointment that we set with the new lead. We're gonna create a webhook, so you can click on that plus, type in webhook, and this is what's gonna start the workflow. The method will be post. You can just leave this path the same. The authentication will be none. Usually you'd want the authentication to be something like header or basic, but in the case of Google, it actually doesn't do any of that information. You have to do none and we have to use our own authentication. Then we're going to say the response is going to be using respond to webhook node. And again, it's because Google wants you to use your own authentication method for this. So we'll click out and we'll start adding our own authentication. So we'll go out of here. So first we're going to get a edit fields node or set node. Let's do some manual mapping. We're gonna call this secret key. And then here we're just going to put in a random value to use for our secret key with Google Ads. So for now, since it's just an example, I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're gonna copy that into this key here. Next, we're gonna go back to this webhook. We're gonna copy that URL and we're gonna paste it in the webhook URL right there. You can go back here. You're going to listen for the test event. You can hit send test data, and it says the test data is sent. Check and see if it worked. And we can see that it worked. And you can see all of this information here from our Google Ads account, including this Google key that we made. So next, we're going to go back out here and create a new node. And now we're going to do something to check the secret. So we're going to make an if statement. And so as you can see, this is just going to route items to different branches, whether something's true or false. So it's just going to check to see if the secret is equal to the one that we have in our n8n account. So we're going to execute previous nodes so we get the information in. So we're going to put this right there, just click and drag. And we're going to go to our webhook. We're going to find that key. There's the Google key. So whenever the secret key is equal to the Google key, it's marked as true. As you can see, there's the true branch right there. Then we're going to respond to the webhook, and we're going to respond with a specific message. I promise you, we do not do hardly any coding here, but this is one of the small pieces of code that we're going to write here. It's just JSON. Anything that is JSON is inside of these curly braces. And so we just want it to say success and true in this response to webhook. And then we're going to make one more respond to webhook for the false ones, the ones that are not true. And we're going to put this in as JSON as well. And we'll put this message in. It's going to be this curly braces again. We'll say message and then invalid Google key to just send back to Google Ads saying that the Google key was incorrect. And you're going to make sure this is not connected right there. That needs to be connected to the false branch right there. So now we'll just test this information real quick. We'll hit execute workflow and then we'll test it from here, send test data. And it looks like it didn't respond correctly. There's a problem here. Oh, and it's because we left this as respond immediately. That's good when we're testing it from the very beginning to get that initial information, but this actually needs to be using respond to webhook node. So you click there, we'll try this again, execute workflow, send test data, and boom, we're good to go. Now I want to show you real quick what would happen if they had the wrong secret in here. So if this key was not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let's just say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. We'll make sure that this is running. Go here, hit send test data. It says test data is sent. It's still green, but you can see it went through this false branch here. And so what's going to happen is we're going to make sure that no information goes out through this false branch and that nothing can happen. It'll just stop there and nothing else will happen. But if we go to this other branch over here, it can only be true if this number is correct. If this key or whatever password we make it matches the one that we've got in this edit fields right here. That way we don't have people making calls on our AI and causing us all sorts of trouble. So I'll just go back here, add that 5 back in there. We can execute this workflow and then we can send the test data. Accurate, and now it's going through true again. Now we're going to add a set node to just clean up some of the information that's coming out of that webhook. So it's also this edit fields one. Add a field. We'll call this first one name, phone, email. And you're going to want to make sure this webhook here is still pinned so that none of this information has to be re-executed every single time and it can just work off of that most recent one. Just saves us a little bit of time of having to go back and forth between the Google Ads in here. Execute the previous nodes for that webhook. Let's bring in the string value for name, string value for email, and string value for number. We can call this Vapi call information. Save it, and you can run it as well to make sure it's all green. And you can see there, we've got our name, phone, and email all set. Now we're going to make the request that goes to Vapi, and we're going to do that through an HTTP request. The method is going to be post. The URL that you're going to call is this one. Just type that in exactly. That comes from the Vapi documentation. We're going to be using generic credential type. Header auth, and And then I've already got my Vapi header auth here, but I'll show you how to get that a little bit later. That's just going to come from our API key. Next, we're going to send headers, and this is going to send extra information that's required for Vapi to work with an HTTP request. This one is content-type. Make sure you get those capital letters at the beginning. The value will be application/JSON, and then we're also going to send body. And again, all of this information comes from that Vapi documentation. Feel free to take a look at it if you're curious, but as long as you type in the same information as me, you should be good to go. Content type will be JSON. Here are the different fields that we're going to need. We're going to create an assistant ID in Vapi. We're also going to need a phone number ID. We'll send the customer name. Send the customer number that it should call. And then we'll also send over that email information. That way we can send a follow-up email after the phone call is completed. And for now, while we test it, we're gonna put in some test customer information. So feel free to put whatever name that you want in there. Got Jim Halpert. I'll put in my phone number here. And then here you can just put in your own email to test out the final email to follow up after the phone call. Great, let's get that all connected. Connect that there. Save that. And now we're ready to take our next steps in Vapi. Type in vapi.ai. Sign up. First thing that we're going to do here is set up tools so they can be connected with our Google Calendar. That way you can set appointments with our different potential leads. So we're first going to click on our email up here on the top left, hit settings, and go to integrations. Search for calendar. You'll see Google Calendar here. You'll hit connect. You'll connect it. Finish. Now that Google Calendar has permission, we're going to go to Tools. We're going to add new tools by clicking on Create Tool. We'll go to Google Calendar, hit Create Event. Change this to Create Event, Google Calendar Tool. Save that. Create one more tool, go to calendar, check availability, and then the name is good to go here. It already has that check availability in there. Next, we're going to get our API keys by just going to the left and hitting API keys, and we'll take this private key and copy it and paste it into n8n. And we're going to go back to the Vapi HTTP request, click on that, create new credential. You come here, you'll paste in that API key and the value, and the name will be authorization. And we can change that name on the top left to something that we'll recognize for later. Next, we're going to go back and grab that assistant ID and the phone number ID that's going to come from Vapi. Go back to Vapi, go to assistants, and we can create a new assistant. And as you can see here, it's got some examples of what the assistants are like. It's got what messages they're going to say first, what the system prompt is, like a typical AI would be, and a bunch of other settings that will tell you how specific you need it to be to what it's talking about in the prompt, what the voice sounds like, the tools that it's going to be using, and things like that. So we'll go ahead and make our own assistant. And this one is most similar to the appointment scheduler just because we're reaching out to these leads and trying to set up an appointment with them. I'll call this the Google Ads contact and hit create assistant. And here we go. It came preloaded with a lot of information here for someone who's just trying to schedule an appointment. But before we get into that information, let's finish up on the n8n side. So this number up here, right below the Google Ads contact, that's going to be your ID for the assistant ID. And you can see here it says copy assistant ID. We'll come back to Vapi, we'll paste that in. And now we're going to get our phone number. And you're going to do that by clicking on phone numbers on the left side, and you're going to create a new phone number. Type in an area code such as 601. You can create up to 10 of these free phone numbers. And then once you're here, you'll see this number at the very top. That will be your phone number ID. You'll go back to n8n and paste the phone number under phone number ID. And at this point, we can press execute workflow and we can test to see if the call is going through, and make sure that you've gotten your phone number entered into that Vapi HTTP request as well. Okay, it looks like we've got an issue here. Let's just go in to the HTTP request It says must be a valid phone number. Hot tip, you might be missing the country code with the +1. Got it. Okay, so do not forget to add a +1 if you're in the United States to the beginning of your phone number. So go down to your phone number under customer.number and add that. Okay, we'll try that again. And it looks like it's working. And I'm getting a phone call too, so we're good to go.
Riley, your scheduling assistant. How may I help you today?
And as you could hear there, it's reading off that first line. It says, "Thank you for calling Wellness Partners. This is Riley, your scheduling assistant. How may I help you today?" Okay, so now it's time to work from the Vapi side of things. And this is the part of the prompt where you're working with the phone call prompt. And so you're going to type in the exact first message that you want to be spoken when they answer the phone call. And then you're going to enter the system prompt. And this is going to give the very specific information to Vapi on how they're supposed to talk with the customer in order to have a good phone call and scheduling the appointment. Okay, and you can see here that I'm just pasting in a couple different prompts that I had already worked out for this Vapi example to work. What I recommend that you do is that you take these examples that they've got for you and you use that same format that they've got. This format ends up working pretty well for Vapi, and I would just go through each section and make sure it applies to your company and the specific needs that you have. The reason why I'm pasting these in though is that once you do that, it's going to take a lot of trial and error. This is kind of how prompting works, especially when you're trying to get a workflow that works really simply and works reliably every single time. And so what I'll do here is I'll just walk you through a couple quick tips on what worked well for me so you can get yours going pretty quickly as well. And so this first message just says, "This is a scheduling assistant for Andromedus window washing. You recently requested a quote online. Is now a good time to chat for 30 seconds. Pretty self-explanatory. I think it's a good first line. Next is the system prompt. So the goal of this call is for the agent to call the customer and book an appointment. Each appointment lasts about 60 minutes. So I made sure that was very clear at the very beginning. I have that goal for the agent. But the biggest part of this whole prompt is the scheduling rule. And I'm very clear with this, telling the AI agent that it has to obey this 100% of the time. First, I put in the date as of today. And this right here, if you just copy in this specifically, of course, just update it for your time zone. You can use ChatGPT or something like that to get the exact formatting. But what this is doing is it's telling the calling agent exactly what the time is when it's making that phone call. It says the date today is now. And the date format is going to be year, month, and day. And that way it can easily read what today is, because if you don't do this, I've had some problems where it assumes that the day is 2023, not 2025 like it is today. That way it can look into the calendar and know where in the calendar should be looking for the busy events. I then make it clear that it already has busy events and that it's not allowed to book any appointments that overlap these events even by 1 minute. These are the important rules to make sure that we have good scheduling for the customer. Next, we want it to use the tools that we connected it to earlier. So it's going to be using that Google Calendar Check Availability tool. I just made sure that name was exactly the same to determine the availability. Then I also mentioned that the Google Calendar times are an ISO 8601. That's a special coding format for times that Google uses, but it's not a typical human readable Mountain Standard Time or something like that. So I make sure that the agent knows to convert them to Mountain Standard Time to understand its availability for the customer. Then I gave it some examples of what it can book. So for example, it has that 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. said that you can book up to 11 a.m., 11:30, 12, or 1 p.m. But you cannot book later than that. I also make sure that it knows to not skip a valid time gap just because another appointment comes later in the day. For some reason, when I was first doing this, I was running into problems where it wanted to book a time only after the last appointment of the day. And so I made sure that it knows that it should book things in between appointments during the day as well. Also, I made it really clear that the 60-minute time blocks cannot overlap any busy blocks. I also gave examples of how it should respond if the customer is suggesting a time that's booked. And I also made it clear that it never should confirm or offer a time that overlaps any of the busy blocks. Then you'll see some other various information. The other big one is once an appointment is agreed upon, book the appointment using the Google Calendar tool, create event. Then I gave it some more information on what kind of agent that it is. So I'm like, okay, you are an outbound AI phone agent. for Andromedus window washing and talking about how it's local. This is coming from Google Ads and lead forms. And then it has some information here for what it needs to be asking the customer. It needs to confirm what type of cleaning the customer needs, how many windows or stories their home is, what the next available appointment is. And then if they're busy, we can offer to send them an email with a scheduling link. And then below, you'll find some more information on the structure of the conversation that the agent will be needing to use during the conversation. The best way to prompt an AI agent is through trial and error. Start by making the prompt as simple as possible and putting the least amount of information in there as you can, and only include the most important information on the general structure and the important points that the AI agent will need to be covering. Then, as you test out the agent, see what it's getting right and what it's getting wrong. And as it gets information wrong, come back to the agent's prompt and see what you can adjust to give it more context to make sure the information gets right on the next time. So we'll go out of this and go to the next step. If you click on voice configuration, this is where you can change the voice that's used on the phone call if you don't like the original voice that they're giving you. Go down to tools, and this is where we're gonna make sure that it has the tool, the Google Calendar Check Availability tool, and the Create Event Google Calendar tool. Then again, there's lots of other functions in here that I won't get into right now, but there's lots of different settings that you can set to make this as customized as you need it to be for your specific calling agents. Then we'll come back here a little bit later to this messaging section, where this is where we're going to use the information that was from the phone call and get it back to n8n to be able to send that email off that confirms to the customer the appointment that they just set with us. But the last thing that we need to do before we go do that is go back to tools, and we're going to start adding a description for each of these tools. These descriptions will help explain to the agent when it should be calling these specific tools during the phone call. Again, I'll just paste in what worked well for me for this prompt. This is how to know which days are available when it calls this Google Calendar Check Availability tool. And you can scroll down and you can enter in the calendar ID if you'd like. And you can find that calendar ID from Google Calendar, and it's usually just the main email that you use to set up the calendar, unless you're going to be using a specific different calendar from Google Calendar. Click Save. We'll do the Create Event one now. And for this one, it's just saying only call this tool if the customer has agreed to a specific time, and make sure that specific time is added to the calendar, including the title and description, and make sure that the title is listed like this. That way the customer and we know who the appointment is for and what time the appointment is at. Again, you can add that specific calendar ID and then hit save. Okay, and so before we test this out, I forgot to save it after adding our tools, and so I've got to go back and add the tools again. We'll add that Google Calendar and the Create Event Google Calendar tools, and then you hit publish here. It's really weird. It says publish, but that also means save. Okay, and we'll press Talk to Assistant, and we can test it out right here.
Hi, this is the scheduling assistant for Andromedus window washing. You recently requested a quote online. Is now a good time to chat for 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Great. What type of window cleaning are you looking for? Exterior only, or both interior and exterior?
Both.
Perfect. And roughly how many windows does your home have? A ballpark number is totally fine.
24.
Great. And how many stories is your home?
2 stories.
Got it. Do you have a preferred time of day for the service? Morning or afternoon?
Afternoon would be good.
Thanks for that. The next available afternoon slots are Friday, December 12th at 12 p.m. Friday, December 12th at 4 p.m. Do either of these work for you?
Can we do the 3 p.m. slot on Friday?
I'm completely booked during that time. The closest I have open is Friday, December 12th at 12 p.m. or 4 p.m. Does either of those work for you?
How about Saturday at 10 a.m.?
Sure, let me confirm availability for Saturday at 10 a.m. One moment. Saturday at 10 a.m. is available. Shall I book that for you?
Yeah, let's do it.
You're all set for Saturday, December 13th at 10 a.m. You'll receive a confirmation email shortly. Thank you for choosing Andromedus window washing.
Okay, so you can see that worked really well. We've got the appointment right here at the exact same time that we talked about on the phone. We also have these times that did not work. I asked him to book an appointment at 3 o'clock on Friday, and he said that didn't work. He also gave me different options that were available, that 12 o'clock option and the 4 o'clock option. And so if you look back over here on the call transcript, this is why I like using that talk to assistant button, is that you can see what's going on with the conversation in real time, and also the different tools that it used and some information from the tools that it used as well. This is just it booking the appointment on my calendar. So great stuff. So now we're gonna go back to n8n. You can save that, everything's smooth there. And we're gonna make the part that sends off the email to the customer confirming their appointment. So we'll grab a new webhook here. We'll make this method post. And then we'll copy this URL, we'll take it to Vapi. We'll go down to the very bottom of Vapi, then go to messaging, and we'll paste it right in that server URL spot. We'll come down here and make sure all of this information is cleared out, because we only want it to send information to n8n at the end of this call, because we have Vapi taking care of all of the booking appointments and calendar requests that we have from all of our potential clients. So I think that looks good. Make sure this is cleared out as well. Then we'll hit publish, skip and publish. We'll go to the top. And now we can test this out by hitting talk to assistant. And for this one, we're actually not going to let it go too long, just because we want to see if it's connecting to our webhook first. Once we know it's connected to our webhook, then we can continue on with the rest of the process flow. And we'll let this call go for a second, like I said, and then give ourselves time to just respond once. It'll just hear me talk, so you can see it coming through right now. We'll go back to Vapi. We'll hit listen for events. So it's listening right now. We'll go back to Vapi, hit end call, and we'll see if it pulls in that event from the phone call. It's listening. Okay, there it is. And so we don't have to do that over and over again. We'll just pin that data right there. And we'll pull that webhook down here, and we'll just call this webhook 1, webhook from Vapi. Next, we'll put this into an LLM, like OpenAI, message a model, and that way we can use this information that it just gave us to pull out what we need to build the email to message the potential customer the confirmation of their appointment. First, we're going to choose a model. Just go with 4.1 mini, save us some cache. I want the first role to be system. And then this is the prompt that I used for this. Hit expression so you can see this on a wider screen. This is basically just saying, take the transcript that you're receiving from the call and then make sure that the email is confirming that time to the customer. Then we'll scroll down and add another message. The role here will be user. We'll paste this in as well. And then this transcript, you can see that this is just the summary of the customer call. So the difference between the user role and the system role is the system is really good at instructions, and it lets the model know exactly what information is super important and how it's supposed to act when it receives these messages. And then this is just the prompt that includes the actual messages from the customer, or in other words, in our case, it's just the transcript from the phone call from the customer. So I just wrote, the following is the summary of the customer call. And then I just took, here, I'll just do it again. So I just took the transcript. So I'll just go transcript. Cool. And paste it in there. We're good to go. And you can see from this transcript, this is me just from chatting with you earlier. And so it has what the user said, what the AI said, what the user said, and says we'll go back to Vapi. But in the future, this is going to have what our appointments are or are not. And then lastly, you're going to need to make sure that you're connected with your credentials for OpenAI. You'll just hit create new credential if you don't have one, and then connect with OpenAI. It's pretty easy and pretty straightforward. I'll hit create new credential for you for just a second. All you'll need to do is go to Google and type in OpenAI API key. Then you should be able to create an account in the system of OpenAI to create an API key. And so you can use that API key, paste it right in there, and then just make sure you upload it with a few dollars to make sure that it will work for you. And save it and use that. And we can hit execute step to see if it's working. And this would be interesting because it doesn't have any information on booking appointment time. And then you can see here that it has the whole response here where it basically just says that they were unable to book a time with them because I was talking to you guys about n8n stuff and asked them what the best time would be for them. So it looks like everything is working really smoothly. The last thing that we need to do is create the Gmail button to send the message. Make sure you're connected with the right Gmail account. If you haven't connected before, the first thing that you want to do is go to one of my previous videos where I talked about how to connect your Google credentials in less than 5 minutes. Then you'll come back here and then go through and add these other sections. So we're just going to leave these the same at message and send. Then the to information is actually going to come from this webhook. And we don't have that information quite yet because that is going to be coming from this HTTP request. And so once we send a request to Vapi from here, it's actually going to take that information that we made earlier and where we added all of this customer name, customer number, and metadata email information, because that's going to go through to Vapi, then Vapi is going to send that information back here to the webhook. Next, we'll do the subject. I'm going to make it Andromedus window washing appointment / customer name. We're also going to have to come back and add that customer name as well, because that's going to also come from that HTTP request. And finally, this message is going to come directly from the model. So we'll just put that in there. And actually the last thing that I'm noticing here is that this text includes information such as this subject of the email. And that shouldn't be in there because we're going to get subject in the body of the email and that'll look really weird. So we're going to go back to this prompt and update the prompt. And so I added this information here. I wanted it to address the customer by name, state the time of appointment, and then complete by signing off as Andromedus AI. I also made sure to put in here, do not include the subject in the reply, address the customer on its own line, and make sure that the sign off is on its own line as well. That's just for formatting issues to make sure it looks really clean and good. And I also gave it an example of how it should be addressing the customer. We will have to come back here again to put in this customer name once we've got it from this hook from Vapi. We can execute this step. There it goes. It has no subject line in there now. And you can see when this send a message comes through, it's only going to get that dear customer, but it doesn't have the customer's name yet because we don't have the customer's name. Okay, so let's run a full test from the start of this webhook all the way through to the HTTP request and then capturing it in this node as well so that we can see the information come through as send a message. I'll skip through the call stuff so you don't have to listen through that again, but what basically is going to happen is I'm going to press the execute workflow from here. It's going to make the call, and then right as the call is ending, I'm going to press over here, listen for the test event, and it should capture all of the information over here. And then we can pin it and then use that information in the send a message section over here. So we'll hit execute workflow. Oh, and it doesn't like that I have a problem here. So for now, I'll just put my own email. And then we'll come over here, and actually instead of pressing execute workflow, we've already got all this information pinned. So we'll just hit execute from the HTTP request, and it should make a phone call to my phone. And then I'll see you on the other side. Okay, so I just finished that phone call, and you can see that all the information came through from here. And if you're feeling some FOMO, here is the summary from the phone call. I basically scheduled an appointment with the same 2-story home with 24 windows for December 12th at 4 p.m. You can see that it went into my calendar just fine. And we can pin this information so it stays there. Now we can run this model. And take this information here. It says that we're confirming the appointment at December 12th at 4 p.m. Looking forward to it, Andromedus AI. And then actually one last thing we need to do here is we need to change this to text, or else none of these /ns, it just means it's a new space in the email. will be recognized. And now we can take this to email from Vapi, and we used my email. So we can just search that real quick, and it's going to be under the call metadata email. And so we can now replace that with the dynamic variable. That just means that it's going to change depending on what's coming in from our Google lead. Then we can also add the customer name. In our example, customer name was Jim Halpert. We also want to make sure that it's coming from the call customer name. We can put it right there for the subject of the email. And the last place we wanted to have that was in our prompt. We wanted to have the customer name here. There's that call, customer name, Jim Halpert. Cool. Okay. So now we can see if it works for our email. Here. And here. There we go. Andromedus window washing appointment / Jim Halpert. It's confirming the appointment. Everything's looking really good and clean. Best regards, Andromedus AI. And the last thing is we do not want this sent automatically with n8n email here. So we're just going to go back to the send a message, add an option, append n8n attribution, and turn that off. And we can execute step again. We'll come back here, reload the page, and boom, everything is the same, except it doesn't have that n8n attribution to it. And we can come back here, make sure everything's all saved. We'll just call this Vapi Google Ads. And we'll come back here and take all this information that is supposed to be variable and make it variable. So that's not just getting customer name Jim Halpert every single time that it pulls from Google Ads. We're getting the actual name. So we're gonna go to this webhook. We're gonna go scroll down, grab this string value of first name, last name, delete out that Jim Halpert, take the customer number, and it does have that +1 in there for us already. And we'll take the metadata email, post that in there as well. Now all of this should be sending correctly to the HTTP request, and it should be good to go. The last thing that you'll need to do to make it live is go to these webhooks, flip it from the test URL to the production URL, and then just paste in that production URL in the Google Ads section, and then do the same thing for the Vapi one as well. Put the production URL in that messaging section instead of the test URL. And you just hit that active button, and you should be good to go so you can respond to leads faster than ever so you don't miss a single opportunity. Remember to like and subscribe. And if you have any questions, please ask them in the YouTube comments below or in my school community, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'll also be posting this as a full template in my school community, so you can just copy and paste this for a lot easier plug and play for you. I'll catch you in the next one.